You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, welcome to the Middle Age Movie Views Podcast. Four guys saying, before I was ever on a podcast or got myself blown up, Middle-Aged Tim was one hell of a movie critic. I can tell you that. I was so good that when I talked about a movie, I could change the opinions of every movie site on the internet. I'm serious. I had it down so cold, I was given paradise on earth. I was given one of the biggest opportunities to co-host a podcast on the internet, the Middle-Aged Movie Views, by only kind of guys that could give you that opportunity. I don't know all the details.
Matter of fact, nobody knew all the details, but it should have been perfect. I mean, he had me, middle-aged Matt, his best friend, narrating the podcast. He had Joey and Rick holding down the other microphones. But in the end, we screwed it all up. It should have been so sweet, too. But it turned out to be the last time that street guys like us were ever given a voice that powerful again.
At the time, the internet was a place where millions of listeners logged on every day with their 56K modems and left behind billions of views in the forms of posts. But at the eclipse of MySpace, you couldn't see those posts that were linked to the original movie reviews. But it's in that transition to broadband where lots of those posters would be turned into viewers.
Got lots of MySpace pages on the internet. A lot of movie reviews buried in those lost pages. You got to do it right, and you got to have those pages 404 before you show up with your podcast. Otherwise, you're talking half an hour, 45 minutes of denial of service attacks just to keep those old movie review sites from pulling views away from your podcast to their webpage. And who knows who's going to be coming along to draw away viewers from you. Before you know it, you're losing viewers left and right. You could be there all freaking night.
My name is Tim, and my podcasting partners are...
Middle-aged Matt.
Joey.
Dungeon Master Rick.
All right, Joey, why don't you tell us what show we're comped in the casino tonight?
Tonight we are watching the 1995 movie Casino, number 891, from the book of 1001 Movies You Should Watch Before You Die, written by Nicholas Pileggi and Martin Scorsese, directed by Martin Scorsese, and starring Robert DeNiro, Sharon Stone, Joe Pesci, and James Wood.
Thanks, Joey. All right, guys. Usual question. When was the first time you watched this gem of a film from Martin Scorsese? Joey, you're up first.
I think I watched it on VHS at home. I think I rented it. I didn't see it at the theater. I would have been 16 years old when this came out, and I wasn't really that into Martin Scorsese at that time. So I want to say I discovered this on VHS.
Gotcha. All right. Well, what about you, Rick?
So, look, I've been watching movies since I was probably in my teens and stuff like that. So for the longest time, I never really even watched this movie. And it just so happened that I think I was like either at a funeral or maybe like a wedding or something like that. And I happened to meet up with one of my cousins who's actually Sicilian. And we were talking about movies and he's into Star Wars and stuff like that. And he had mentioned The Godfather. You know what I'm saying? And he says, hey, have you seen this movie, The Godfather? And I was like, nah, I've never seen that movie. I don't think I'm really into that kind of stuff. He turns to me, he says, Cugino, you haven't seen the movie? And I said, no, I've never seen the movie. I don't really know if I'm really into that kind of stuff. He says, but that is a good movie. You gotta watch the movie. And I said, I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna watch it. He says, you're gonna disrespect me. You're going to disrespect me just like that, huh? And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. He said, then watch the movie, okay? Watch the movie. You will like the movie, The Godfather, okay? So I said, all right. And I happened to watch the movie, all right? And I loved it. I loved it so much that it got me on this kick to watch a bunch of other mob movies. And I ended up watching The Casino back on this mob binge that I was on with Scarface and Godfather and all, and Goodfellas and all those.
Rick, I'm so glad that you got this wonderful accent down for this movie that, was inspirational.
We were just the kids, and then we ate the Shuffle Boy RD.
It's me, Mario!
I'm gonna win. Well, Tim, how about you? When was the first time you got to see this movie? And please feel free to throw in any kind of stereotypes you want.
I would never do such a thing such as that. That would be wrong. And this story that Rick has told us, it's tugged at my heartstrings like the tugging of a violin string during a beautiful sonnet. But I don't have quite the story he has when I watched it. I was looking at my wife and I said, wifey, I said, do you remember when we went to watch this movie? And she says, I watched that with you. I don't even like those gangster films. And I was like, why are you talking like that? You sound really weird. I always talk like this. I was like, you should stop. You should just stop. You sound weird and strange. You're breaking my heart. But so after that brief discussion, I determined that I had not watched this at the theater. I was not big into the gangster films because it made me feel dirty and disgusting as being a non-Sicilian as I am. And so I remember having a VHS copy of it. It came in the big package with I think the 2 VHSs, and you had to get up in the middle. It's all right though. You got a cannoli and a nice cup of coffee while you switched out the videotapes. And so that was the first time that I watched this film. It was a VHS. It was spectacular.
Well, very, very nice, Don, Tim. I really appreciate your use of Corleone here to stereotype. Yeah, so if you have any hate mail, feel free to send it to Tim, care of namreviewpodcast@gmail.com. Back to the main topic, though. The first time I watched this movie, I was not falling under any stereotypes here. I actually watched this movie on DVD in around 2006 after it came out with its 10th anniversary edition. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to diving into this movie with you guys. So let's go ahead and take a look at Casino.
So, Matt, I gotta say, look, I get it, stereotypes and stuff, but I really do have a Sicilian cousin. He really did say that. This is a true story. The only thing is, if he were to listen to this, he might disagree on how exactly he speaks, okay?
All right. Well, hey, Cousin Vito, Sicilian Joe, whatever Rick's cousin's name is.
Cousin Mike.
Okay, Cousin Mike.
Michael.
Don't send a link to him.
Not to be confused with Michael Corleone, okay?
All right. Well, Cousin Mike, if you happen to be listening to this, feel free to email your hate mail to your cousin Rick at dungeonmasterelite@youtube.com. All right. Well, Don, Tim, what do you have as our resident director for the synopsis tonight?
Well, Matthew, I would like you to channel an Italian as you read the synopsis as Sam Ace Rothstein as he contemplates his future, sitting at the precipice of all the bad choices he has made.
Oh, wait. Even though DeNiro is an Italian actor, he's actually playing a guy who's supposed to be Jewish.
What, there's no Italian Jews? What are you trying to say here?
I mean, the name's Rothstein.
It don't matter. Don't mean he didn't grow up on the east side or the west side. Maybe even the south side. I don't know.
It would have been the south side. It's set in Chicago. Chicago. Tell you what, I'll do my best Chicago accent. The Bears, here we go. Well, there was a time in my life when Sam Rothstein had it all. No question in that. I went from being a hell of a handicapper to running one of the world's largest casinos, the Tangiers. Anywhere else in the country, I was a bookie and a gambler. But in Las Vegas, I was Mr. Sam Rothstein. I was not only legitimate, but I also had power and influence. Now, don't get me wrong, being connected didn't hurt either. But it's that second part that can often help and hinder one's endeavors. Sure, my job was to make money, and I made lots of money. But maybe not all that money goes accounted for, if you know what I mean. And when you're dealing with that kind of money, certain caveats from vested parties in Chicago are to be expected. 1, you have to produce above and below board. 2, you need to keep a low profile doing it. And 3, you will have oversight. It's in that third one part of my problems would come to fruition. My best friend from childhood, Nicky Santoro, a made man, was assigned to be my protector and ensure everyone knew who owned the casino. Nicky was a good guy, but his reckless and violent
behavior coupled with his desire to eke out his own gangster fiefdom in Las Vegas often ran counter to what I was hired to do with the Tangiers. And to that, I also let love blind me. I married Ginger McKenna, a former hustler with whom I foolishly tried to win her love and affection through financial security. She backstabbed me with her con artist ex, Lester Diamond, disrupting my life even further. Unfortunately, at this point, the pride, power, and position that blinded my decisions, I was no return. All right. Well, guys, that was the synopsis for Casino. Pretty neat little cold open. Looking much like, I would say, a James Bond movie with some cool visual effects after a major explosion scene with Robert De Niro inside the car. Did anyone else get that Casino Royale feel with the credits and stuff?
I don't know, but it really gives you the false impression that he got blown out of the car.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. How about you, Tim? Did you get the impression that he was blown out of the car or he blew up?
There's no other way to interpret that at the beginning because it actually shows the silhouette of the seat with him in it, flipping around in the fireball. But I'll tell you what, though, it's a good way to capture your audience right out the gate. You see that explosion, you're like, oh, crap, what's this all about? They killed De Niro. He didn't make it 30 seconds. He's dead. Like he walks from the door to his car and he's dead. Like, what the hell?
It's like one of those movies where you get the ending in the beginning and now you get to see how it all kind of happened, you know?
Yeah.
It just grabs you. There's no other way of saying it. Scorsese's got a way of grabbing his audience, and this grabbed my attention from the get-go, for sure.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it was definitely a quick hook to get you into the movie. And of course, after we see this explosion and the cool little credit sequence, we dive right into the story narration. Much like our intro to this episode, you get Nikki and you get Ace narrating the start of everything. So it's kind of fun and neat to see that this is a story taken from two viewpoints. Our protagonist of Ace Rothstein, and of course our antagonist who start out to be like best friends. So what do you guys think of the whole narration of the storytelling? I mean, it is an interesting way to tell the story. What do you think, Joey?
You're immediately reminded of Goodfellas. It's just like we're not hearing Ray Liotta this time. We didn't hear, Jimmy two times.
Right.
Get the papers. But you're immediately aware that it feels like a spiritual sequel. And speaking of spiritual sequels, the spiritual sequel to this movie is The Irishman.
Gotcha. It is kind of neat that this movie kind of shines a light on the casino industry and what it was like in the late 70s and early 80s. But before I dive into that, Rick, what did you think of the dueling intros or the dueling narrations?
I thought it was super cool. I really like how when they're talking about everything that happened in the past in the narrative format, that you hear it from their words and their perspective, but you see it what more seems to be like what really happened and stuff. So you get this spin on how they perceive the world, as in things are happening to them and they just can't let certain things like disrespect fly. Even though maybe other people might look at it and be like, it's kind of blown out of proportion, you can just kind of let it slide. But the way you really get to hear their thoughts on how they view the world as it happens, while you see what the truth, or what we maybe think is the truth of what really happened. And you get to see all the corruption, how everything's rigged and stuff, and how our characters are. You get to kind of put them in little boxes as far as what sets them off, what is going to be their triggers, and what's their motivations, those type of things. It's really, really good. I really appreciated this narrative form. I like this type, and also when they do the narrative form, not that in this movie they do it like this, but in narrative forms where they have heists where they say, here's our plan, and then you see what the plan is going to be as the plan happens and stuff. I love that stuff.
Rick, I have one word for you. I'm in, you son of a bitch. Well, Tim, how about you? What did you think of this double narrative and the kind of the stream of consciousness this movie takes on?
I mean, that's the magic of this movie. It's been a quick minute since I watched Goodfellas, but I know he uses the narrative a lot, Scorsese, but I don't think he's ever done a dually like this before. And not only that, but it goes throughout the film, which I think is the real magic of this. I mean, because if you think about it, this is a 3-hour movie that has no plot. It's a lot of action, no plot, and all narrative. A lot of it is anyway. And I found that to be mesmerizing. And I enjoy not only the narration of the things that are going on, because you know what the characters are thinking, but you get insight that what one character thinks of another. You know what DeNiro thinks about Nikki and vice versa. And I think nothing epitomizes that more than when they're in that bar.
Yeah.
He goes and he asks that guy, he's like, hey, is this your pen? The guy's like, yeah. And you could take that pen and jam it up your fucking ass. And he comes around. He's like, oh, yeah? And he starts stabbing that fucking neck, you know.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. I mean, it's just going to town with this pen and stuff. And then De Niro's like, here I am thinking about, why did this guy say this to me? And Nikki, in the meantime, is just tooling this guy up like nonstop, like a pit bull to a bone. It's that kind of thing where you're not going to get it off their visual face. You're going to actually get to hear like what he's thinking while this guy's basically disemboweling this dude's neck. And then you get the little cherry on top where he's like, you hear that? You hear that? Do you hear a little baby? Is that what I heard? Where's that tough guy that was just there a couple seconds ago? Oh, I'm here to just give little babies.
Yeah, I do like how they go from character to character, because not only do we get, the main characters that have this inner monologue or this narration, but every once in a while a secondary character will have one. Case in point, when we see Frankie later on in the movie talking to the main boss guy and asking him, so is so-and-so sleeping with such a person? And Frankie's got his internal monologue, and I'm like, that's kind of clever, because neither Sam nor Nikki are in the scene. You got to have somebody to carry that through. And I thought it was really cool that Scorsese was able to even use secondary characters to continue this story device.
It was a way to take pivotal moments and let the characters explain why they made the decisions that they make. There's that one moment, it's like, I could have told him that he was screwing the Jew's wife, but nobody was going to win from that statement, so I lied. It was nice to get a little bit of that insight into those pivotal moments by doing that.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's a great story device that Scorsese used. So anyway, we're introduced to Sam. So how about you, Rick? What did you think of De Niro's portrayal of Sam Ace Rothstein?
Look, man, I was super duper Peaky Blinder lover. I watched pretty much all the big mob movies and stuff like that. And a moment ago, you were kind of talking a little bit about stereotypes with regard to these movies in particular. And I think there is kind of like a stereotype about the Jewish mobsters and how they portray a little bit more of an analytical character, less emotional, more numbers and business based. And I think you get this with this portrayal of Rothstein, that things happen that would make people go absolutely bonkers. But when the things happen to him, you can tell that it's like welling up inside. But when it really comes to execution, he really doesn't have a whole lot of execution when it comes to actually follow through with what his emotions would have someone do. And I think it's because he keeps even keel on his actions. But you do see the emotions in the actor. This is really something he's upset about, but everything comes down to the money. Everything else is secondary. It's all about the money. And I think you certainly get the feeling that while there might be emotions in there, that's not important. Not with this character.
Yeah, it does seem like money and numbers is the driving force for Sam. Does that kind of make him a typical Scorsese hero then, in your opinion?
No, I don't think so. I think that there were times when he was greatly disrespected, and I think that a typical hero that you would see in those films would spring to action. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, Joey, how about you? What'd you think of Sam Rothstein?
It's De Niro. It's just, I don't want to talk down about Robert De Niro, but there's roles I'm not going to cast him in. Like if I said, Robert De Niro, be a tree. No, he's fucking Robert De Niro. You're going to put him in a Robert De Niro role. Is he typecast? Yes. Did he make a career out of it? Yes. Does he have range? He does. But I wouldn't cast him as the comic relief in a silly comedy. He can do comedy, but he's usually the straight man. Right? He's intimidating in Meet the Parents.
Yeah.
And all those sequels. But, you guys were saying it's like he doesn't look Jewish. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fuck it. It's Robert De Niro. He's playing a guy who overlooks a casino. He's going to nail it. Right? You just cast him anyways. And nobody fucking cares. Nobody remembers that. It's kind of like a fun tidbit where you're like, by the way, his character's Jewish. Did you catch that?
Right.
So that's kind of how I felt about it. They let you know that like he's very focused on the task at hand. When it was numbers, illegal gambling, he had a system, he understood things, and he had results. And so now that he's in Vegas, it's the same thing. He's got his fingers in all the pies. He knows what's going on, and he's all about business. And it's really, you know, his relationships that fuck everything up.
Right.
It's his friendship with Joe Pesci's character, and it's his romantic relationship with Sharon Stone's character. If that wasn't going on, there wouldn't be a fucking movie.
Well, how about you, Tim? What thoughts do you have on the introduction of our buddy Sam here and De Niro playing him?
I think it's the perfect yin-yang. De Niro's Sam character is the calm to Pesci's storm of Nicky Santoro. They complement each other well, where one's very much business, one's very much about being a gangster. But the biggest thing is that this isn't just a character that he's playing, because this movie's based on somewhat true events about a casino that was run by the Outfit, which is the Chicago mob back in the 70s. It's really about the Stardust is what it's about. And so, you know, his character, Sam Ace Rothstein, is really based on a real gangster named Frank Lefty Rosenthal. And he actually got to sit down with Frank and talk to him. So they actually had several conversations, and he learned how Frank really was, so that he could basically become that character. In the end, when Scorsese played the rough cut of this movie to Frank, Frank was ecstatic, because he's like, except for one part in the show where I'll get to it later, there was only one part he's like, that makes me look stupid. Otherwise, he's like, it was a perfect portrayal of how things really happened in me as far as he was concerned. So he's very pleased. So this isn't a character that he developed or that he thought about. I mean, this is based off of a real person, and he nailed it.
Goodfellas also the same, based on a real person.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a De Niro character. I mean, he's that guy. He's that controller. I mean, even in Heat, he plays the character Neil. He's the controller in that one, too. That's kind of what De Niro's thing is. He's the bad guy, but he's not the crazy bad guy. He's the cold, calculating bad guy.
Right.
And Pesci's not. That's not what you hire
No.
Pesci for. But yeah, we'll get to him in a second.
You know, I have to agree with you guys. I mean, Robert De Niro plays Robert De Niro roles, and this whole role just screams De Niro. I mean, he's your typical calculating character, and he's playing things by the numbers. He's looking at all the angles. He's watching the manager while the manager's watching the floor manager. The floor manager's watching the pit bosses all the way down the line. I just think that, yeah, that's your typical De Niro kind of character. And yeah, you can definitely see him as a protagonist. Well, let's then, as you had mentioned, Tim, let's switch over to Nicky Santoro. What do you think of Joe Pesci playing this? I know personally, I thought that Joe Pesci brought this guy to life because, I mean, he's that funny-looking guy who's got a short temper as tall as he is, or as short as he is, I should say. So yeah, I really liked Joe Pesci as Nicky. What was your thoughts on him, Tim?
He takes the Napoleon complex to a whole new level. Let's just put it that way. I mean, he really does. But I mean, that's what Joe Pesci does best. That's what we know him for. He's that hot-headed little Italian guy that just compensates for his hype by being just as brutal as possible. And he does it here. And again, he's based on a real character too. Tony the Ant Splatoro. And Pesci had it down so much and looked so much like him that when he showed up into the casino, he made some of the people in there nervous because they had to deal with the real guy and they thought it was him. He freaked them the hell out. And not only that, but Scorsese brought in a lot of ex-wise guys to give it guidance and make sure they were doing things the real way. And they said his portrayal of this character was so on point that it was terrifying. They said he is the epitome of every mafia guy that these guys have ever met. He just had it nailed. He's brutal. He loves being a gangster, projecting his power. Not only is he doing his job for the Outfit in Chicago, but he's like, I'm also going to forge my own little world here too. And nobody's going to tell me how to do it. And it's going to cause a lot of problems down the line here for Robert De Niro's character, Ace, for sure. But how do you control something like that when you're just the guy that's running things and he's the made man? You don't have much say over that. You can't tell him what to do. And as we'll find out later, you don't talk about him to other people.
Yeah.
But he did a great job. And that opening sequence in that bar, it sets the whole tone for the character.
Yeah, I agree with you. It definitely does. It is interesting that Joe Pesci is playing this kind of a character because if you look into his past, he kind of grew up around wise guys like Nicky Santoro. What about you, Rick? What was your thoughts on Joe Pesci's performance here?
It was good, man. I liked the character. I liked the way that he made the character what he is. Sometimes you feel as though maybe he's upset. It wasn't that he was necessarily upset when he sprung to action. Most of the time he sprung to action on a matter of, really it was one main thing, maybe a little bit of family, but most of the time he sprung to action because of disrespect. And when there was a disrespect that happened, I didn't necessarily all the time get the feeling that he was really doing this because he was pissed. He was doing it because of disrespect. This guy was a hammer. And if he wasn't going to beat the shit out of someone, then that meant that people ain't going to listen to him. So you really get the feeling that he's about to do something. He's going to take care of the business, because if he doesn't, then he's not going to have any street cred. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, I thought it was super cool. I thoroughly enjoyed, especially the crazy stuff that he did. It was just honestly too funny. And like we already mentioned, when you get to hear the perspective that he had on this is what happened, this is what I did, and this is how it goes. Or like in the cases when they're explaining how the system works, it's like a matter of fact. You got to give money to these people. You got to give money to those people so that these people got your back in these situations and that the machine works. And it's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you guys find times when he's enacting some of his anger out on people? There were times I looked at him like, my God, I'm amazed this man just doesn't have a heart attack and die. Like, he gets so into that character. I'm like, oh, I don't know how you can perform at that level and not just have a gripper sometimes.
Yeah, he just does seem to be rather overzealous, almost to the point where I'm thinking he's like channeling some kind of sadistic internal character to him. And, Rick, you did mention, he acts on things of disrespect. I think he also acts on, perceived disrespect too, because
big time.
There's so many times in this movie where I'm like, why is he blowing up at this guy? He didn't actually disrespect him. He just kind of said, hey, no, this is how it works. I told you were going to lose a little bit of money on this. And he was like immediately ready to like rip into the guy.
Well, not only that, but I enjoy his Cartman-esque, I just do what I want. He's like, I do what I want. You respect my authority. Just like,
right.
He's totally like Cartman in some regards.
Yeah. What about you, Joey? Any thoughts on Joe Pesci's character?
Much like a DeNiro, Pesci is Pesci. This is not the same character from Goodfellas, but it's not that much different either. He's kind of typecast.
Yes.
Right? But they're typecasting him in his strongest role. I mean, you look at Raging Bull, you look at Goodfellas, and you look at Casino in particular, and those are all very similar characters in different situations. I don't want to like shit on the performance at all, but it's like when you went to see a Chris Farley movie, you were watching a Chris Farley movie.
Right.
When you're watching an Adam Sandler movie, you're watching an Adam Sandler movie. He's being Adam Sandler. And I'm not saying Joe Pesci's really like those characters, but he's doing what he does best in these. And the truth of it is, there's other roles that have challenged him more, and this isn't one of them. I think he's doing the best of what he's good at.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree on that. Well, let's go ahead and take a look back 10 years before the opening of this film, when Ace was working in Chicago as a sports handicapper and mafia associate. He's sent by the Chicago outfit to Las Vegas to run the Tangiers Casino. He soon doubles the casino's profits with extra unaccounted for cash skimmed directly from the casino's count room and delivered to the Midwest Mafia bosses. So when they break down how the casino is set up, you see all the different steps that the mob takes to get Sam into the position that he's at. What did you guys think of that in this 5-minute sequence of setting everything up? What'd you think, Tim?
It's kind of crazy when you really listen to what they're telling you. It's almost more work than being legitimate, I think, to some point. I mean, the schemes that these guys have to do and the layers upon layers of this person has to get paid off from that person and this person over here skimming and this guy that, is doing this skimming for you. Well, you got to let him skim a little off the top because, of course, if he's stealing for you, he's got to take a little for himself, even if you are paying him well, and blah, 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 blah. And it goes up to this guy and that guy, and it goes all the way up the chain. And what's the number one rule De Niro does? He's got the top guy of the outfit. Always make sure he places bets and lets that guy win because he's a horrible gambler. He's always losing everything. So De Niro keeps him in cash as an insurance payment to keep in his good graces. So he's got to grease everybody from the bottom all the way to the top. It's really interesting. Almost hard to follow. I mean, there's so many gangsters in this. That's just almost impossible to follow who's who and who's doing what. But it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I pretty like the scene where, you kind of follow the money. I mean, it starts off in the counting room and it just progresses from there and you see everybody and the briefcase and going from spot A to spot B and C and D. And it's really neat. Like, it kind of brings you in. What about you, Joey? What did you think of the whole money skin scenario?
It's disgusting, but I feel like Most cities, there's some kind of pay to play, and it's expected. This is just taking it to the next extreme. It's amazing and disgusting at the same time because it's a form of lying, taking bribes and looking the other way. And I don't like dishonesty, so it's very closely related to that. It's a scum culture.
I agree with you. I mean, the way it breaks down, everyone in this movie is crooked or conniving. It certainly makes you think about the motivations of all the secondary characters along with the main characters. What about you, Rick? What kind of feelings did you get coming off of this with the establishment of the casino and everyone lying and conniving to get things done?
I'm not really, I'm not in the mob or anything like that, so I'm not speaking from experience and stuff. But
you mean even with a cousin that's a Sicilian?
Spoken just like a real mob guy.
It seems as though it's got to be pretty darn close to the way that it actually works. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's interesting, especially when I have conversations with people about things that happen in the world that just aren't talked about. And because they're not talked about, say like in the news or in mainstream media, that it's like people act as if it just doesn't happen. And I think this is one of those examples of something that really people don't really talk about. It does happen. And it's probably something really close to like this if it's not just like this. So I think that it's really, really interesting to be able to get that measure of insight into at least a little bit how the crime world works and how one person has to scratch another person's back in order for something to happen. What's really cool and also super believable is when they talk about outside of the realm of the mob people doing the things, or if we're talking about the cheaters and scammers at the casino. But when you take a look up, you see them talking about how in order for the machine to work, the palms of politicians and state officials, national officials, they have to be greased with money, women, and whatever else that they want or need. And then that is done with the expectation that the machine will work.
Well, it is interesting that you mentioned the politicians and such because, watching this movie, I completely forgot that one of the Smothers brothers was in this and seeing him playing a politician, I kind of had a little bit of a chuckle because I'm like, he does look like your typical 1970s politician in this movie. I want to say it was Dick Smothers?
Yeah, Dick Smothers was in there.
Yeah.
Actually, Scorsese put a lot of comedians in here because he liked comedians, but he put them in very serious roles. Don Rickles is the one that cracks me up. He doesn't have a lot of lines, but I just enjoyed seeing Don Rickles in there.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I have a question for you guys later about Don Rickles. But, since you brought him up, Tim, I'll go ahead and ask you guys. So what did you think of Don Rickles playing the casino manager there? I know I've always enjoyed seeing him in anything, whether it's a role from the 1950s where he's playing a U.S. sergeant or if he's in something more modern day before he died. He's such a great comedian, a great actor who's always quick on his feet. What did you guys think of Don Rickles? I'll go to you first, Rick.
So I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar with this actor. I've maybe seen him maybe once or twice. I'm kind of pulling up right now to see like what other films that maybe he was in that I've seen. Looks like he was in some Toy Stories and stuff like that. I'm not too familiar with his work, so I really couldn't say I could base it off of something. But, I mean, he seemed like a pretty chill dude for the most part. Like you said, he didn't have a lot of lines. And he kind of played not like a yes man, but especially when it came to like before he would do stuff, a lot of times he's like calling up Rothstein to be like, hey man, I'm about to do this. Is this cool? And it almost seemed that was how Rothstein really wanted it to go. There was a quote where he was talking to the guy he fired. There's the right way, the wrong way, and there's my way. I mean, it kind of makes sense. But, I really can't say a whole lot about Don Rickles other than what I saw on screen with this. I'm trying to look to see what did he even play in Toy Story. I don't even know.
He was Mr. Potato Head.
Okay.
But if you want to watch something real fun, just type in Don Rickles at the Dean Martin roast or Don Rickles at any roast. It's a riot to watch him because, I mean, he has a way of just putting people down but making it funny.
If you want to see a fun movie with Don Rickles, go watch Kelly's Heroes. It's got a bunch of big actors in it. It's a great war film, and he's great in it.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of his portrayal then, Tim?
I love seeing him in there. Outside of Kelly's Heroes, I can't probably name any other movie that I really remember him from, but I just remember seeing him a lot as a kid. He was like Rodney Dangerfield, Don Rickles, and you had Bob Newhart. These guys are all just classic comedians. They're funny. They got the shtick that when you see them, it's them. They were different than everybody else. He had a way of presenting his jokes in a very weird, dry manner, but he had that baby face that just helped sell. I think that's part of it. Just that big, goofy smile with that baby face. It helped sell him and his comedy all the time. And I don't know, like I said, he didn't have a lot of lines. It didn't do anything fantastic in this film, but I just like seeing him. And you see that being somebody that Ace would hire because kind of like Rick pointed out, every time he's going to do something, he's kind of like, hey, I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. He's that guy that you can trust and he ain't going to do anything crazy unless he asks you first. So he's the perfect right-hand man to help you run a casino.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he portrayed the character wonderfully. What about you, Joey? What were your thoughts on Don Rickles?
I think it's his second best role to his appearance in Dirty Work, where he improvised his insults towards Norm Macdonald and the cocaine guy whose name I can't remember. So Rickles has spent a lot of time around these types because, he spent decades performing in clubs. He had to spend time around Frank Sinatra, who spent a lot of time around people who were in the mob. So I think he had enough inspiration from real people that he could draw on that he met over the years. He complements De Niro very well. He's not throwing any kind of wrenches into the works. He's fixing problems.
Gotcha.
And it's just fun to see him because he's an adorable old man.
You brought back the mobsters, Joey. So let's go ahead and take a look then at what's going on in the film now. So back in Chicago, Remo Gaggi sends Sam's childhood friend and mob enforcer, Nicky Santoro, to protect Sam, the cash skim, and the casino. Nicky recruits his younger brother, Dominic, and childhood friend, Frankie Marino, not to be confused with Dan Marino.
And his isotonic gloves. That's how you don't leave any fingerprints at the scene of the crime.
Together, an experienced crew specializing in shakedowns and jewelry burglaries. Nicky's criminal activities in Las Vegas start to draw too much media and police attention, so he is eventually listed in the Black Book, banning him from every casino in Nevada. Which, that's, kind of a short breakdown of what kind of happens for like a good, I would say 15, 20 minutes of this movie where we see Nicky's kind of rise to power in the quote unquote Las Vegas underground. And honestly, it kind of creates this antagonistic quality to him against Sam. And it makes me wonder if Nicky didn't come out, would this movie have been completely different? And I think Joey might have had it the first time, where if you didn't have the Nicky character in this movie to create conflict, we wouldn't have had a movie. What do you guys think? Do you think we still have an entertaining movie if Nicky didn't come out and cause this crime wave? Tim, what'd you think?
I think if it wasn't Nicky that came out, it's going to be somebody like Nicky, because the reason that the outfit sent him out there was to represent. One, it's to keep an eye on Sam. Make sure that the golden goose, nothing happens to him. Don't let anybody mess with him. But two, you need to let them know whose casino this is. And that's what he does. You see him coming up to guys like, hey, I see you guys are here. And they're like, oh yeah, we didn't know you were here. Are you here? He's like, yeah, I'm here now. I'm here. And they kind of look over at Sam and look at him and stuff. He's like, oh, so you're here? He's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm him here now with him. All right, well, we're looking for such as. Well, he's not here, so you should go look over there for him, kind of thing. So that was like that. That's that mafia speak to say, I know you guys are in here to start some shit or to be up to no good. And you don't want to do that because this is the Outfits casino. You can't be in here. You can't touch nothing here. And you most certainly can't touch him. That was his job. He's there to break heads and to, lay down the law and to enforce. That's what they sent him out there for. So, most guys that are doing that role are very much like Nicky is. They're hotheads. They're kind of like his inner narration says. He's like, oh, I'm not really supposed to be doing that, but fuck them. Who are they to tell me I can't do shit? If I want to put down my flag, I'm going to put my fucking flag down, and that's what's going to happen. That's how those guys are. It's just how they think. So I think it wouldn't have mattered. Somebody else would have showed up, because a lot of those other mafia guys that we see in the film, sure, they're tough, but they're tough in groups. Like, they're a bunch of, a lot of them are fat guys, fat old dudes. Like, it takes two or three of them to enforce anything, like two guys to hold one to beat him with a bat. Where Nicky, again, taking out guys with just a ballpoint pen by himself.
Right.
So he's a force onto himself. Everybody understands who he is and what he does, and then they don't want no part of that. So that's why he gets away with what he does. I agree with Joey. Had Nikki not been there and nobody else showed up like that, yeah, this movie would have just went on for indefinitely. But I think there always would have been somebody like that would have shown up, because you got to have that enforcer type. But every one of those guys is a loose cannon. You just don't know whether it's going to be because they're trying to establish themselves, because they're an alcoholic, because they're a drug fiend, because they got a bad gambling problem. Something always contributes to their delinquency that causes problems and chaos and always brings down the system. And that's what it is. And to somebody like Sam, it's like, oh man, if you would just play by the rules. Like, dude, we're making all kinds of money here. I just want to keep everything legit, as far as legit can be.
Right.
Because he knows it's not legit overall the business. But for all intents and purposes, it's legit. Everything looks on the up and up, and everybody's getting paid. Don't fuck that up. And again, Nikki's just like, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Who are you to tell me that I can't do this? Who are they to tell me they're not here? I am. Fuck them.
Right. And I think Pesci did a great job portraying that, showing us that Nikki is a character that would be somebody that you don't want to mess with, and he's there to make his own money on top of everything. It is kind of neat how we get his narration where he's like, well, I can do whatever I want as long as I give a little bit back to the Bambinos back in Chicago. What about you, Rick? What did you think of this whole situation where Nikki kind of comes in and plants his flag?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's exactly what is quoted in the movie, and I totally get what Tim is saying. That makes a lot of sense with regard to how this character is really kind of adding to that conflict of the story. And without this angle, having this muscle, I think that it would be a little bit more of a lackluster story. And the story gives us a lot of foreshadowing. There's a lot of story elements here. In the foreshadowing, you could see it, especially like it opens up pretty explosive, you know what I mean? But you get to see that there's foreshadowing along the way where each of the main characters have their own goal. We haven't talked about Sharon Stone's character, but she has her own goal and motivations too. And early on, you see that no one's goals align. Everyone wants something, and it's similar. Matter of fact, it's in a base sense, it is the same. But the way they go about achieving their goals is drastically different, and they do not align. It's almost like those scary movies when you know that the killer is right behind your main characters, but they don't know it, and you get this thrill that you're on the edge of your seat because you know it's coming, but there's nothing that your main characters, could really do about it. It's going to happen to them. And you see it. The further and further along in the film we get, the more and more you see these main characters get to this impasse that not all of them are going to be able to reach their goals. You know that's not in the cards for them, so to speak, no pun intended. So it adds to the conflict, and it's really good. I guess what Tim said is true. Somebody else would have done it, but I mean, if you just say like, hey, this is just a movie about casinos and this love interest, you'd probably be watching Pretty Woman if that's the case.
It's another thing to point out that you had mentioned about the tension between Nikki and Sam, how it's there. And I think it's more because they were friends back home.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of adds a little extra element to everything. What about you, Joey? What are your final thoughts on Nikki's flag planting?
I can't like his character because he just has to go and fuck everything up by being, crooked on top of crooked. He's got this character flaw. He can't fucking relax. His character has to keep pushing things. I want to, cheat, our own casino out of fucking money. He has no respect for Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro is constantly trying to warn him that he's got eyes on him and he's going to fuck everything up. And yet he just continues to fuck everything up, piece by piece. So for every positive thing he does that Robert De Niro's character is appreciative of, there's 4 other things that he's fucking up and he only knows about 2 of them. Nikki thinks he knows about none of them sometimes. And it's just, I can't stand his character.
You know what, though? Something that I could mention from Rothstein's viewpoint, that Nikki is kind of fucking shit up. But the same is true if you take a look at Nikki's viewpoint of how Rothstein is handling everything. Because without Nikki, there were people who were going to scam Rothstein out of money, and he would have lost the money. And Nikki is like a mob guy, and everyone's got to get their cut. So really everyone's getting greedy and everyone has their own way of doing it. And you get a little bit more of Rothstein's character's perceptions But every once in a while, when they actually have an all-out argument, Nicky puts out his 2 cents, and if you really consider it, he actually has a few very good points that, like, hey, if he wasn't able to plant the flag, then Rothstein wouldn't be able to have what he has. There wouldn't be that respect to be able to do the things that he'd be able to do to make the money that he's been able to make. So everyone has their own way of doing it, and I wouldn't necessarily buy in 100% with the perceptions that Rothstein gives us.
The movie is taken from his point of view with sprinkling of Nicky's throughout. So I think that it definitely gives us a more positive viewpoint to Sam. It would be interesting to see the reverse of this movie, to see everything from Nicky's point of view with Sam sprinkled throughout. When Nicky does come out, though, Sam introduces him to this woman that he meets and falls in love with, a beautiful con artist, showgirl, and former prostitute, Ginger McKenna. And Sam proposes to her in the most, I would almost say, bookish kind of way. There's no romance there, but he's smart about it. He gets it so that they have a daughter first named Amy, and then they get married. And I think that this character played by Sharon Stone is probably just as conniving and crazy as we see with Nicky. What did you guys think of Ginger? And I'll go to you first, Tim.
The Ginger character is awesome. Although it makes no sense for Sam to fall in love with this woman, because in our first introduction is her on a date. She's on the casino floor. She's been gambling all night long with this dude. He wins a bunch of money. And then she's like, okay, I want my cut. And he's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I've been here gambling with you all night. I want my cut. And he's like, you don't get a cut. Like, you're just here with me. I like win this cash. And so she loses it. She throws those chips all up in the air and crap. To me, it seems like that's a thing, Sam's character would be like, get her the hell out of here. He just, for whatever reason, becomes completely enamored with this woman. And much like her date that evening, he's going to end up regretting it. Just the whole relationship's weird and volatile from the get-go. But as far as Sharon Stone playing the character, though, man, dude, she nails it. I mean, oh my God, she just gets further and further into that character. And I mean, wow. Again, we've seen glimpses of this in Total Recall. The director there said, that's what I loved about her, is that she's able to go from charming to complete bitch or teary-eyed crazy woman at the flip of a switch. And she does that in here a lot too. And she's got to be a big character actor. I put her right up there with like Tom Hanks and some of those people who just get into the role, because as this progresses, dude, she's that character. She becomes this Ginger character. So I got to give her props. There's a lot of great actors in this, but to me, she steals the show. Her character is just on fire the whole time. It's just fire.
I mean, there is a reason why she was nominated for Best Female Actress in this role. It is a really great performance. What about you, Joey? What did you think of Sharon Stone's role in this movie?
You're not going to like my answer. I don't like her either.
I had a feeling that.
The movie's a lot about theft and deception, and I don't have respect for those people. It's like I have more respect for a fucking meth cook, because it's gross meth, and they're cooking it, and they're providing
a service.
Yeah, they're giving you a product. Yeah, it's like, you're buying this meth, right? It's fucking trash. It's going to ruin you. It's going to destroy your body. You know that. And I'm giving it to you, and no one's lying to you and saying meth's good for you. I have more respect for them, because at least they're going out and they're making something. These people are just take. They're fucking takers, and they'll lie to your face about it, and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't like them.
But her portrayal, though, makes you feel that.
It does. So she succeeds in making me not like her. But you got to think about it. At the end of the day, even though DeNiro's character, other than the skims that they know they have to pay this back because the casino was built with mob money. Well, I shouldn't say mob money. It was built with
Teamsters money.
But they owned the unions. So they're going to get their kickbacks in perpetuity. And other than that, he's really playing by the books. He's talking, one of my favorite character actors / horror movie hosts, Joe Bob Briggs, and telling him, it's like, look, these are our biggest machines. You got to move them to the front. I shouldn't have to fucking tell you this. You're the slots manager. Do your fucking job. He's working 18 hours a day. He's a workaholic. He's putting in the work. But at the end of the day, he's also a fucking thief, and he knows it, because he knows the house always wins. Now, how he could be taken by someone who he knows is a known thief like that woman, I don't know. I don't understand it. Maybe he had some kind of admiration for how slick she was.
Gotcha. Okay. I do have a question about Joe Bob Briggs, but we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. I do want to wrap up one thing with Ginger, and I think this kind of takes it to the main reason. Ginger and Nikki are chaos incarnate, whereas Sam is all about order and keeping everything on an even keel. And I think that's what really enamors him to Ginger, is because she is opposite of him, like opposites attract kind of thing. And that's what gets him into falling in love with her. That's at least my theory.
No, that's a good point, man. I mean, there's a number of things here that I gotta say. First off, he's a rich dude at this point. So he's looking for, just like a lot of people who got a lot of money, they're looking for a trophy wife. The problem is, for us, it's easy to see because, I mean, we're not in his shoes in real life. We're watching through the screen. So we can see there's a problem immediately. I mean, she is for the streets. I mean, there's other words to call it. I'm not going to call it, but she is so for the streets. And there's a saying about that. You can't make a blank a housewife. And it comes full circle to that by the end. And he even uses the words, just not all in that order. And there's lessons here. I think there are real big lessons here. For anyone who's not married and thinking about pulling the trigger with a girlfriend or something like that, money can't buy love. She's got this dude in tow, Lester Diamond, who's this, for her Chad. She's clearly an alpha widow, all right? She's like head over heels for this dude, would pretty much probably kill for this dude. And you can't marry someone like that. That is just absolutely bonkers. The number one thing is money. And he gives it to her thinking that it's going to be enough. The thing is that you quickly see that just wasn't enough. She just wanted more and more, just like every other character. Every other character, our main characters, they just want more and more and more money. No matter who we're talking about, every single one of them, they just want more. And the last lesson here, love is blind. I think it was really clear that our main protagonist was head over heels for Ginger, but he can't see that as he's blind to, all that. We saw it. It was foreshadowed. We knew it was coming. And it wasn't until after the fact that he was like, oh, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, because I think his biggest mistake is giving her not only her quote allowance, but he entrusts Ginger with $2 million in cash and $1 million in jewelry. He puts a safe deposit box in her name with all this cash and stuff in it, and it's like, okay, so this is kind of your insurance policy in case something goes south, and you're entrusting this woman with it. I think that was like the biggest mistake. And I've seen that with people in my life growing up. You see some guy go crazy for a girl and she's not at all interested in him as much as his pocketbook.
Yeah, gold diggers, they call it.
Yeah. So Sharon Stone definitely portrays this aspect of Ginger really well. And this marriage of theirs is so tumultuous, especially since she still has this relationship with the Lester Diamond character played by James Wood. And I don't see what she could see in this guy. Lester's definitely skeevy. I think he's the skeeviest person in this movie.
I was going to say, I thought that the portrayal was really good. It kind of showed some versatility for James Wood. It was cool because I've seen James Wood in other things, namely vampires, and he plays this very, very brash and confident vampire hunter and stuff, which is extremely different from this lowlife you see in Lester Diamond. So I thought it was really cool. I thought that he did a really good job. The way that he did his lines for this character, I thought was spot on. He just seems like this loser, just absolute loser. You know what I mean? I thought it was awesome, man.
You almost don't even realize that it's James Wood. You look at you like, is that James Wood? Yeah. And you're like, holy shit, it is. And I think to make it even more interesting for you, Rick, that almost all his dialogue improvised.
Wow.
He was not given a whole lot of direction. He just improvised all that shit, like the phone calls and stuff, all improvised.
Yeah, it was good.
When De Niro has him beat up in the parking lot and you see them walking away, I think he makes a comment. He's like, yo, running away? You couldn't even beat me up yourself?
He just doesn't know when to quit. It's just like, dude, you should be dead. You should be out in the desert in one of those holes, I don't know how he doesn't end up in one.
That's because Rothstein was the one taking care of that business. If it was Nicky, he would have been,
Yeah. You're right. It's weird because Rothstein, he ain't got enough moxie to go up against mafia Somebody connected shows up, but he ain't got no problem smashing the hand of a guy who tries to steal from him at the casino. It's really weird where he places his anger and selective violence. I don't know. Like, Nicky usually has to do most of it, but every once in a while he'll still tool somebody up. But I think he only tools those up that he feels safe enough to do. And maybe he felt like if he tooled up on Diamond, then she would never forgive him. But I don't know if that would have been much different than having his boys do it or whatever. But yeah, it's really weird. But his character is off the hook. Woods was excited to be in this too. He found out that Scorsese was considering him and he called him up. He's like, anytime, any place, any character, any pay scale. He didn't care. He's like, I'll do anything you want. You just put me in the film. I swear to God, I'll do anything you want. So he was into doing this film. He was very excited. But I think, Matt, to answer some of your question on that character too, when you're like, I don't know what she sees in him. Dude, this is one of those scenarios where the girl meets this guy early in her life.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes the love of her life, even though he's a scumbag, and she can just never get him out of the system. Like, how many people did we go to school with or know in our lives that end up with guys like this? You know what I mean? They're just complete scumbags. Don't treat them well. They end up living shitty lives. And they're on again, off again, break up, get divorced, remarry, all kinds of stuff. I think Scorsese really captured that in this. Like, there's no rhyme or reason as to why she keeps going back, because it's obvious he uses her. He really only wants her for the money and stuff he can get from her. That's what she is. She's a producer for him. He's a low-life scumbag that doesn't work. And when he needs his drugs or his alcohol or apparently suits and a nice watch, whatever it is, she's going to get these women to do things for him. And then when he doesn't need them, he's using this money to, screw other hookers and whatever else. But for whatever reason, she just can't let this guy go because it's the love of her life. Probably your first love, and he knows that, so he plays on that emotional bond, and she just can't get him out of the system. He's like a drug to her. No matter what, she's always going to crave him.
Good point, especially since the whole drug reference, because, this movie is littered with it.
Especially in front of that kid, man. Like Joey talking about the bad things that's going on. That was probably the worst thing. I was like, what the you-know-what, man?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that, man.
And she even has the gall to say, don't do this, baby. I'm like, don't do that in front of your kid. Don't do that, period.
Yeah, she does some messed up things to that kid. Shit, I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man. Tying that kid up? What the hell?
Yeah.
If I'm Sam Rothstein, I'm like, again, hole in the desert, we're taking care of this problem right now, because this is not... There's only one way to fix this at this point, and it's not through a divorce court or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Joey? Any thoughts on James Woods' character?
I don't think James Woods has played a character closer to his real personality other than this film. I think he's a scumbag in real life, and I think he's a slimy scumbag in this movie, and he nails it.
Wow.
Joey, is there anybody that you like in this movie at all?
Holy moly, bro.
I thought I owned this movie on 4K because I passed it up on many sales. I dug through all my fucking movies thinking I owned the 4K of this. I never fucking bought it. I have a discount Blu-ray that I own. I've never even opened it. And I forgot why. Because I was like, oh, that's a pretty good movie. No, it's because I fucking hate these disgusting fucking people. And that's why I didn't buy it. I'm liking the politician more than anybody so far.
You mean the Smothers brother?
Dude, was it the Smothers brother?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I could have swore it was him. I was like, there's no fucking way he's playing, some politician that's having sex with prostitutes. And no, it was him.
So if anybody out there wants to send your 4K copy of Casino to Joey, let us know at manreviewspodcast@gmail.com. And we'll give you the address where you can mail it to Joey for his enjoyment.
What is the name of the comedian who's playing the red tie politician who is in charge of the club that DeNiro received an honor?
Oh, Kevin Pollak.
Thank you. Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
So far, I like him the best.
Okay.
Because he's a dumb shit, doesn't know what's going on. I would say I love Joe Bob Briggs' character the best, but he's a fucking idiot.
Well, that was the thing I was going to bring up is we get to see a young Joe Bob Briggs here.
Youngish.
Yeah.
He's in his late 30s, at least.
Yeah, but he hasn't had all that plastic surgery that he has like right now, or he hasn't gained all that face fat.
I don't think he's had any plastic surgery. He just has fake dye in his hair, yeah. He got old, Matt. It's not his fault.
But does the movie Casino put his name on the map? I mean, because of this movie, do you know Joe Bob Briggs, or do you only know Joe Bob from his hosting duties?
No, you're like, oh, that's the guy from fucking Monster Vision. And it's just like a fun Easter egg. It makes you happy. Kind of like where I saw the Smothers Brother. I was like, that guy looks like one of the fucking Smothers Brothers. But it was. That blows my mind because, like, you just confirmed what my brain thought I saw, but it told myself, nah, that wasn't him.
Well, poor Joe Bob. Sam fires him as the slot manager for his incompetence. This is what I think is the point where everything's starting to culminate. It's all starting to affect how he views the casino. I think he's starting to make mistakes. I think his biggest mistake here is he fires Don Ward, a.k.a. Joe Bob Briggs. Even though he knows that Ward's brother-in-law is the Clark County Commissioner Chairman who's in charge of making sure that the casino has its license. He could shut down the entire operation. He can get Sam fired. And we see that confrontation. Pat Webb shows up, the Clark County Commissioner, and he tries to convince Sam to rehire him. And that, of course, is where we see the turn. Sam is now in that mindset that he runs the casino. And I think that's where the domino effect starts to take place. Am I wrong in that thought? What do you think, Joe?
He's a victim of micromanagement. I mean, I want the same amount of blueberries in every fucking muffin. He has a point. He's not wrong, right?
Right.
He's correct. Everybody's trying to rob him blind and stuff like that. But he's working himself into an early grave, essentially, because he has to control everything. And that's kind of a character flaw of his. And maybe he's so wrapped up in the minutia of the casino that he's overlooking all these other big fuck-up areas of his life. So, I don't know. It's not a perfect movie. He's not a perfect guy. And those fucking blueberries, am I right?
Well, there's the solution. Is he probably should have just hired Don back to put the blueberries in the muffin.
That's exactly right.
Problem solved.
Because he could be like, I can handle this. I can put the blueberries in the muffins. I'm happy now. I'm a blueberry boy. And then he wouldn't have had all this trouble. But no, he had to be right and say, I don't want that guy out of my fucking casino. And he couldn't have given him some other pissant job that he couldn't possibly fuck up. He should have idiot-proofed the guy's job and, had him be Mr. Blueberry.
Yeah, see, that's the part I didn't understand is when they're having that conversation. Can't you find some way of just letting them back in? Like, he didn't say he had to have that exact same job. I mean, dude, I'd be like, well, we probably can do that if he's willing to scrub toilets. It's pretty hard to fuck up shit.
Yeah.
But he was so rigid.
He could have put him in charge of the people scrubbing toilets, and he could have scheduled their toilet shifts.
Yeah. He became so rigid because I think at that point, the power is going to his head. And I think as the world around him is spinning out of control, he's trying to clamp down harder to keep everything in check. He's trying to control the things that he can to have some semblance of normality in his life while his wife is spinning out of control, his best friend is spinning out of control. Things are starting to go poorly with the outfit. That's the only explanation I can have is that he's just like, I got to try to clamp down and get control before this thing just completely falls off the tracks.
Right. What about you, Rick? Any thoughts on the change in the story here?
Yeah, what's interesting is that you had mentioned that you thought that this was kind of like the turning point. So did I. When I was taking my notes, I actually made this a whole new section, and I titled it The End of the Gaming License, because when he decided to take that person off his payroll, I mean, that is the graft needed to get his license, was to keep this dude on the payroll. The dude was cool about it, too. The dude came in. He was respectful. He was like, yeah, I know my brother-in-law's a dipshit, but can you please put him on the payroll? And I think everything that everyone said is completely true. Plus, I do think that he legitimately was worried that this person had a potential to actually be making attempts to actually take money from Rothstein. I think it more than likely he was just too dumb to notice that people were really having a go. But I think he was legitimately worried that maybe this guy was kind of in on it too. And that's probably the reason why he was like, no, under no capacity could we actually let him back in. And I agree also with Tim, though. There's just too many things here going on. He's getting too big of a head. He thinks that he's running the place. It's like the closer our main characters get toward their goal, the farther away they actually are, because they're trying to get more and more and more and more money. But because they're getting more money, they're getting more greedy. And because they're getting more greedy, they make worse choices that push them further and further away from attaining their goal.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And, it gets to the point where once Sam loses his ability to get a gaming license, it basically jeopardizes his position. And so he has to think of a new spot. And he comes up with hosting a local television talk show right there inside the casino. And it irritates Nikki and the bosses back home. It brings further, more unneeded attention. And it just brings it up to 11 with just the pure craziness of what's going on in his life. And I just thought it was hilarious that here we have this straight-laced kind of guy doing a Tonight Show right there on the casino floor.
Here's Johnny.
What did you guys think of De Niro's craziness here?
I think it's just want for revenge. He's like, well, if these bastards won't tell the truth and they won't give me a fair hearing, then I'm going to put myself in a public forum that they can't shut me down on, and I'm just going to riff on them. Even though, again, as Rick said, if he'd have just played ball, it would have never happened. He brought it on himself, but he can't see that anymore. And the bosses back home are like, look, Sam's got to get the hell off the TV. Just give himself a new title, like food and beverage commissioner or something. He can still run the place. He's just going to have to be more quiet about it. But he's just getting more obnoxious, sticking it in their face that he's still doing this stuff. And it just perpetuates this whole downward spiral that he's in. And this is where the gangster that he was portraying said he was not happy. Frank basically said, look, I did the TV show, but I never juggled. It makes me look like an asshole when you juggle. But again, that's what that guy did. He literally created that show. And if I remember right, I think I read somewhere Don Rickles was like, yeah, I was actually on that guy's show. It's kind of interesting that now he's playing in a movie about this gangster on a show that he was actually in back in the 80s. So it's kind of funny in that regard, too.
Way to come full circle.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think we've said it quite a bit. It's his slow slip into losing his position.
I mean, he's just making bad choice, man. I think if that happened more earlier in the movie, he probably would have just been like, let the guy get hired back on, actually. But, I mean, he's just making one bad choice after another at this point. And him going on to some TV show is just a terrible idea, man. Just terrible idea.
I agree with you totally. Obviously, it makes the Midwest boss angry, and they, of course, discover that people have also been skimming. That's where things take another step in the downfall to the casino. They decide to put an incompetent person, the underboss, Artie Pisano, in control of bringing the bags and making sure that the skim doesn't get stolen. And did you guys happen to notice the cameo here from another Scorsese family member?
Yeah, it was his mother.
Yeah.
She's a little old lady that's in the, I guess it's a market that they're in, more or less.
Market, grocery store, yeah.
I think she shows up, was it like 7 or 9 of his films, I think?
Yeah. I know she plays a similar role in Goodfellas. But again, I kind of get Goodfellas and this movie interchanged every once in a while.
Were you waiting for the how to make you laugh like a clown line?
Yeah.
Where's it at in this? I know that's in this film. You're like, oh no, that's Goodfellas. I'm such a dumbass.
Yeah. Am I funny? Do I?
Yeah.
But, again, it's another downfall because, like you said, Artie's keeping records and he's talking like crazy about the whole situation. And basically, it allows the FBI to do a full-fledged investigation to the Tangiers casino. And that's where things really heat up on the bosses. And we start seeing the downfall of the Tangiers.
Yeah, the guy pretty much does connect the dots. He just lays out the whole roadmap for him. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's like, why didn't he get knocked off first?
I don't think they knew it was him necessarily. Basically, they're listening in. They got all that information. They did all their investigations in those people, and then they started hitting them all at one time. So I don't think that they knew it was him that was shooting off his mouth, because the only reason they knew that is because they had put that microphone into that little grocery store there.
Yeah.
They thought he was involved in some kind of hit on some guy from years before.
Right.
Yeah, it was something totally different,
Yeah. And he's just spouting off shit left, right, and center, and he just gives them the whole playbook.
He was singing like a canary.
Yeah. And like I said, they're just basically writing names down. There's everybody and their brother on this list, so let's go investigate them all. And I think they just hit them all at one time.
Yeah.
And to add insult to injury, this dumbass was putting it all in books, man.
Yeah.
That's like criminal fucking 101. Never fucking write everything down, dude. Not that I have any experience in this.
No, not that we would do anything like that. And if you're going to do it, at least write that shit in code, you dumbass, but
Right.
make somebody cipher that shit out. And I remember at one point he says he's going to start keeping track of all that stuff to one of the bosses, like, whoa, no, we don't do that. Like, what do you do? No, you don't write nothing down, you dumb shit. So
You're not going to file taxes on that.
Yeah, that was exactly why I told you to file taxes on that. No, you don't write that shit down. Because I'm sending you out to Vegas on my dime, so that you can go out and have a 2-week vacation, fun in the sun, enjoy yourself. And the guy's like, no, I'm doing it on my dime. Again, it gets back to what Rick says. It's just the greed. There's never enough. There's never enough money for these guys.
Yeah.
This guy's only job is to fly out to Vegas, hang out for a week, get the money, and come back and hand it off. That's it. That's his job. Dude, I wish somebody paid me a gross amount of money to do that every time. I'd be like happy as a clam. Not that I want to do mafia runs, but just something similar. I'm just saying, if I got a mule something that can make big money, that's one of the easiest things to do, especially back then.
Tim, are you sure about that? It kind of looks like you're wearing a Kansas City Chiefs shirt on right now.
Come on, you know who this is, Rick. Come on.
I'm playing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tim is wearing the Greatest American Hero shirt.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not, George isn't home now, and you can leave a message at the beep.
Well, the FBI is investigating everybody, and they got eyes on everyone. And I just think that this is funny that we see these two chaotic characters coming together at one of Nikki's construction trailer. That's when we find out what's going on between Ginger and Nikki and how they're having relations together.
They're getting to know each other on a much more intimate level.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier in the episode, but the guys back home ask Frankie, is Ginger screwing Nikki? And then we get that alternate inside look at another character's line, and I thought that was really neat, just the way that they were able to utilize that, as I'd mentioned before.
I like the guys just kind of like, well, I can answer truthfully, and that could get me killed, or I could lie, and that could get me killed. It's just like, what a job to have where there's no right answer.
Right. Well, now let me ask you guys, and I'll go to you first, Rick. What do you think of Nikki here? Do you think he's a upstanding friend because when Ginger asks him to kill Sam, he doesn't, but yet he's still banging his wife?
I think he did pretty good because she was laying the moves on him and he pushed her away numerous occasions. It really wasn't till that moment in the construction site trailer. That's when he kind of had a breach in willpower. And I think a little bit has to deal with the fact that him and Sam had a falling out at that point because they were upset with each other's method of acquiring money and power. And the cards fell into place, so to speak. And she had been trying, and I think she tried really hard this time because she was really looking for a payout.
Right.
I wouldn't call him a good friend, but hey, man, at least he was good enough to be like, no, I'm not going to kill my homie over some broad. At least he was able to do that. And the thing is, it's much easier to make the right choices when conditions make it easy. True colors show when it's hard to make the right choice and you make the right choice. That's really when it matters, is when it's hard to make the right choice, not when it's easy to.
Gotcha. What about you, Joey? What do you think? Bros before hoes?
Yeah, especially hoes. Because let's think about that phrase now. It's bros before hoes. It doesn't say bros before women. It doesn't say bros before your wife. It says bros before hoes. So if they's a hoe, stand up for your bro.
They belong to the street.
Right. You gotta treat them like you see them. You don't put a ring on that. It's gonna come back and bite you in the ass. I mean, look at the James Wood character. He clearly got to her when she was young. He was older. He has this control over her, this influence. He's a pimp. And that's why she's never going to be over him. And then when he went, and had his guys beat him up, that was it for her. She turned on him that day.
Yeah.
First of all, he should have never been with her. And second, my big question is James Woods did exactly what he said, and he took the money. Notice he walked out of the restaurant without the money. If you'd have taken the fucking money, do you think that would have been the end of it? And he would have literally left town and never saw him again? I think it would have.
No way. No way. He would have blew it figuratively and literally.
Yeah, I agree with Rick. I think he would have blown it, and then he knows that he's got a cash cow. He'd go back and try to get more money out of her.
Yeah.
He'd fuck it up the second. So if he didn't get his ass beat that day, he would have got his ass beat on another day.
Yeah, man, because at the end of the movie, when she got that hoard of cash, she went through it, and I think they said something like a week or month or something, like crazy.
I think it was a month or two at most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, man.
$3 million, man. That's a lot of freaking drugs. Because she had that, $1 million worth of jewelry and $2 million worth of cash.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it should have lasted the rest of her life, which, I mean, she was a smoker too, so, I mean, that wouldn't have been that long.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it should have been a lot longer than it was. I mean, it's a substance abuse thing, too. So you get to watch that arc of substance abuse. It looks like she cleaned up her act for a while, and then, she's stealing his pain pills for his fucking ulcer that he has because he stresses himself out. He's drinking fucking Maalox right out of the bottle.
I think basically what you're seeing here is that she just goes to the only tool she has in the toolbox, and that's sex and seduction. When I can't get my way by being cute, then I'm going to use sex as the tool to get what I want. And that's what she does to Nicky. And he tries to resist, but at some point he's like, look, yeah, I'm going to nail her. And it's wrong. Rick's totally right. I mean, he shouldn't have done it, but he did. But the caveat to that is when she's like, I just want you to kill him. He's like, what the fuck? Like, just because you're screwing me, I'm not killing my friend for you. This is just convenient for me. If you think you're going to get me to kill somebody because you're giving me a little nookie, that ain't happening. That's not even realistic. You're going to go, you're going to do what he wants. You're going to shut your mouth. And if we have a little side action, that's fine. If we don't, that's fine too. But it's like, I'm not killing anybody for you. You ain't that special in my life. It shows that he doesn't have any respect for her and that he still has respect in some weird, twisted way for his friend. Bottom line is, we all know he should not have done that at all.
Yeah. And, it definitely shows that she's gone because she's ready to leave. And eventually Rothstein sees it. He doesn't want her around anymore. So he just basically kicks her to the curb. Around that same time, all the bosses have been arrested in Chicago. And then that's when they're like, well, we need to put a hit out on everybody. And they have a little conversation in the back room of the courthouse, which I thought was kind of neat because you see all these old guys just kind of sitting around this table talking about different people in the organization. And that's when the hits go out. And that's when we come full circle back around to the beginning of the movie with the bomb going off in DeNiro's car. And of course, it was a failed attempt, and he pretty much knows that it wasn't mob bosses who did the hit because they would have done it successfully. This was done by an amateur, so he's pretty sure it was Nicky. What did you think of the explanation of the bomb exploding in the car? And I'll go to you first, Rick.
I don't even know that much about cars. I mean, I just took it at face value. I was like, he's saying that there's a plate underneath the driver's seat. So I was like, I guess. I have no idea. The way that he said it, it sounds like it made sense. And that's how he was able to escape with pretty much almost no injuries and stuff. As far as who did it, I don't know if I would necessarily believe that Nicky would have done it on his own. To me, I don't know. It would seem like maybe it was something. I could maybe see Lester trying to put that together. I definitely could see Ginger trying to orchestrate this. Other than that, Nicky already was like, no, man, I ain't doing that. You know what I mean? So maybe it was him. I doubt it, though. I couldn't say.
Gotcha. What about you, Tim? Who do you think tried to bomb Sam?
No, I think it's Nicky. I mean, for sure. I mean, because by this point, he's coked out of his mind. Him and his crew are 24/7 full-on 80s coke fiends. And he's mad at him because he went behind his back to talk to the bosses about him. And he's already pretty pissed because when they go out for that desert meeting, he's like, every time I went out to meet him in the desert, I felt like I had a 99 out of 100 chance coming back. And that one time, he's like, I felt like it was a 50-50 at best, So like their relationship is broken down. And I think it's been so out of control and things are going so poorly that Nicky's like, I just got to get this guy out of the equation. Like he's causing too many problems. He can't get things under control and he's going to be the death of us all between not listening to the bosses back home about staying off the TV and making a public spectacle of himself. And he can't control this woman. And now he knows that, I'm having sex with her because somebody's showing him pictures and stuff. So yeah, I'm positive it was him. Again, I'm not a mob expert, but I know that you can't just kill anybody you want when you're in the mob. I mean, unless they're an absolute nobody, you can't kill another made man without having some kind of permission. when you are protected, you're not necessarily made man, but you're somebody special like him who's making money. You don't just go kill the goose who's laying the golden egg all the time. And again, the thing that saves Sam from the end carnage is that he had been paying off Remo, the main boss, the whole time. He's been giving him cash. It's kind of an insurance policy. And I think that in the end is what saves him.
Yeah.
Because they're like, no, leave him alone.
You know, even Sam says that he suspected Nicky. One other thing I noticed about the explosion is when we first see it, it looks very exciting. But then the second time we see it, it's kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, it's kind of like when the Joker hits the button in The Dark Knight, and there's a little explosion, and he's like, well, what the fuck is this, right?
Yeah.
As unimpressive as the explosion was, my guess is if the car had saved him, I don't think he would have died right there. I think he would have died in the hospital from the burns.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was a weird explosion, too, because it's like it started in the air vent, and then it just became like this fireball, and then they were able to get him out, and then it like kind of blew up. It was a weird explosion.
It was very interesting. It was almost like at the beginning of the movie, A, they faked us out, and B, you're looking at an alternate reality where that was it for him.
Yeah.
He's blown through the sky. And you're right, it's a James Bond intro. But we don't get a James Bond ending. We get kind of like, here's the reality of the situation for our characters and for Vegas.
It's after that explosion. The bosses had ordered Nicky and Dominic killed in 1986. They're ambushed by their own crew and brutally beaten bats and buried alive in a shallow grave in a remote Illinois cornfield.
I will never look at cornfields the same way again. It's got to be a great place to put a body.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I like how they actually found a good cornfield to use, unlike another movie that we saw at the beginning of our journey through the 1001 movies with Alfred Hitchcock and the North by Northwest. I mean, the fact that this actually looks like an Illinois cornfield, I thought that was fantastic. Tim, what did you think?
That ending is intense. Oh my God. Normally we see something like this and somebody gets hit once or twice with a baseball bat. And it's all said and done. This even outpaces the whole Negan scene. I think The Walking Dead. I mean, man, they tool up in these guys for a long time. These guys are winded. I mean, they're just winded when they're done. And then they're just bloody pulp. I mean, it's exactly what you think it would look like when it's over. And this is how it really happened. This is how the Split brothers went out, except it didn't actually happen in a cornfield. It happened in a house in Bensonville in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
This legitimately happened in Chicago. And then they dumped them in a cornfield in Indiana. Just, I can't think of a worse way to go out.
Oh, yeah.
Do we know what they used for the sand coming out of his mouth for his last breath?
I think that was actually an animatronic that they had in there.
The Hall of Presidents sitting in the dirt?
Apparently.
That's probably the worst part is that they were buried alive, man.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, God, man.
Yeah.
Well, Nicky was buried alive. I'm sure his brother was dead.
No, you saw him actually take a breath while underneath the dirt, too, though.
I didn't notice. I'll have to watch that again.
Yeah.
I thought he looks at him and says, come on, you've already beaten him up. Like, don't leave him like that. I thought they smashed his skull open and then dumped him in the hole.
Yeah, I thought they did.
They did. But when he was in that dirt, before Nicky was in there, you see him take a breath with some of the dirt on and stuff. And I was like, oh, my God, they're both still alive. That's crazy, man. That's just absolutely insane, man.
Yeah.
Well, it couldn't have happened to a nicer couple of guys, right?
I mean, I guess it makes sense a little bit, but the dude who was basically with Nicky the whole time was the guy who was the one who was in charge of that execution.
Frank.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
Well, Joe Pesci killed him in the last movie, so he gets to kill Pesci.
Yeah.
Good, though. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, it was a pretty gruesome ending to poor Nicky and Dominic. I really shouldn't say poor Nicky. I mean, in my opinion, I think it was justice served.
Live by the sword, die by the sword, as they say.
So after that sequence, we learned that the mafia is now out of the casino industry. Nearly all the old casinos were purchased by big corporations and demolished, and new casinos were built with the money of junk bonds. So basically, Las Vegas goes from being organized crime to corporate crime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. And then, of course, Sam laments the new impersonal corporate-run resorts of Las Vegas. He moves to San Diego and returns to sports handicapping. It all comes back full circle in the fact that he was doing this very same job that he was doing back in Chicago, but now he's in San Diego. So does that ending feel like a good ending to you guys? Tim, what did you think? Do you think this is a solid ending?
It's as solid as can be. Like I said, it's a movie with a lot of action and no real plot to it. So, I mean, it's as satisfying as I could hope for. But this part must be very satisfying for Joey. You know,
Yeah.
He gets to see all these horrible people get their comeuppance.
Yeah, the only one that you can actually have some respect for, the guy who's, a workhorse, who's also a piece of shit. He's the only guy that, makes it out alive. And he seems like he's not happy. He's sad.
Right. What about you, Rick? Do you think that Ace is a solid character and shown some growth at the end of this movie?
No, I think that's part of the problem, that these characters are not dynamic. They're static. And they are one-track minded, and that is their undoing. So, yeah, it was fitting, I thought. Actually, I'm kind of surprised he didn't die, too. I almost feel bad for him, because living knowing that you could have had quote-unquote it all, and then you've achieved nothing at the end. I mean, that's pretty sad.
Well, does the end of the movie then reflect in your death clock? Is this worth taking 2 hours and 58 minutes off of your death clock?
So here's what I would say about this movie. It's a fantastic movie, especially for those out there who really enjoy a good mobster movie. It had real good scenes that showed through action and great narration how basically every deal is being done, whose palms are being greased, and how these organizations work. It's fantastic. It's a really great movie, especially, like I said, if you're really into that mob stuff, gambling stuff, or if you're really just kind of looking for a good drama. It's got tons of conflict. It's a really great movie. If you've never seen it, 100%, you should check it out, I think, especially if you're one of those who are into those type of things and for some reason you haven't seen this one. Go watch it.
Okay. Well, how about you, Tim?
Yeah, I'm going to say that it's definitely worth your death clock. You should at least watch this movie one time. You might choose after watching it to never watch it again, unless maybe if you're a big, mafia movie aficionado, you might watch it over and over again. But I don't know if this is something I'm going to come back to over and over, honestly. It feels like a once a decade movie to me kind of thing. There's other movies I think I would rather watch. Not that it's a bad movie, but it's just not something that I feel you're going to be like, ooh, yeah, I know what I should watch tonight. It should be this one. I think you're going to probably go for Goodfellas before this one. And even in the realm of action films, there's just better. But it's definitely worth at least one watch. You have to watch it one time. But again, if you're into this kind of thing, then it might hit your radar more often.
Well said.
I'm going to agree with you. In my book, I think that, yes, this is worth taking time off your death clock. But I'm going to go with 2 watches. Because I watched this back in 2006. I enjoyed it. I watched it again for this view. And it had been almost 20 years between viewings of this movie. And it was entertaining. So, yeah, I'd say it's worth watching at least twice. Joey, I'm afraid to ask. I got a feeling I know what you're going to say. But where does this fall on your death clock?
I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to say that it's worth watching. But, now that I'm revisiting it, I'm remembering why, I'm not as big of a fan of the movie. And I don't think it has a rewatchability factor like Goodfellas. But I do think if you want to kind of have an understanding, you're watching this story about characters, but, it's on the backdrop of old Vegas dying and becoming what you know as modern Vegas today. It's very interesting. And then to also go back and watch the other way too fucking long Scorsese movie, The Irishman, which if you thought 3 hours was enough, how about 3.5 fucking hours? And then you're going to see kind of the other side of the story that's really a kind of a prequel to this, where you're seeing it from the perspective of unions. And you're just like, what does that have to do with Vegas? These 2 movies explain that. It's bizarre.
Well, that's been Casino, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, feedback. We would love to hear from you, so please leave us some feedback. You can email our show at manreviewpodcast@gmail.com, and you could have your email read right here on the show, or leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify, and we'll read that too. So, gentlemen, Halloween is right around the corner. I hope you guys have your jack-o'-lanterns ready, because we're going to be talking about some monster movies coming up. But before we get into that, within 2 minutes or less, gentlemen, please let me know, what are you watching? What do you want to highlight right now on this episode? And I'll go to you first, Joey.
I finally got around to watching the movie Friendship, starring Paul Rudd. And Another guy whose name I always forget because he's on the not so popular but popular enough shows, Detroiters, which ran for 2 seasons. He was kind of on Saturday Night Live for a while, and he's in I Think You Should Leave. And let me get you his name. Yeah, he's this guy that everybody knows him now, but like you don't know his name. Let's see. Good God. Tim Robinson. So Tim Robinson is actually the star of Friendship, and if it's not for everyone. Right now, you can rent it for $9. I'm sure it'll be on a streaming service, bundled with a streaming service in next month. Last month it was still in theaters, so it was $20 to fucking rent it. I had a bunch of digital kickbacks from we were talking about kickbacks. You get kickbacks from Amazon. Hey, do you really need this package as fast as your Prime membership is you're paying for, or can we get it to you a little bit later? And if so, here's this digital currency that expires. Well, I built up a bunch of that and I watched it for free. If you've seen I Think You Should Leave and you like it, you will enjoy Friendship. However, it's a little long. It's all about cringe humor. And you're getting a 90-minute version of a show that's normally 12 minutes and has multiple little sketches. With I Think You Should Leave is like, even a week episode, it goes by so fast, you're not even upset that it was a week episode because it goes by so fast. But this movie is a little, it's stretching a premise kind of long, but I enjoyed it. Am I going to run out and buy it now that it's available on Blu-ray? Probably not. Will I watch it again someday? Probably so. So if you don't know anything about Tim Robinson's cringe humor, watch a couple episodes of I Think You Should Leave. If you like that, you'll probably enjoy Friendship. If you don't like I Think You Should Leave, avoid at all costs. It's not for you.
Gotcha. All right, Rick. Well, how about you? What are you watching?
All right, so I got 2 animes for you guys. One that I finished not too long ago, which was probably one of the better animes that I've ever watched, was Tower of God.
Well, wait. It's actually got a short title. You don't have like the super long title for it?
I mean, I'm sure I could look up the Japanese title. It's probably pretty long, but it's not one of those like, people who want to climb the tower and attain their wish, their greatest wish in life. That would be the name of a more recent type of anime. 'Cause that's like the synopsis. These people, they get into this proverbial tower because usually there's some really bad thing that happened in their life, and then they get into this tower, and this tower is it's like a dungeon crawl, and they go through each of these levels and unlock the next level up or whatever. And if they can get to the top, supposedly they can get their, wish in life granted to them or whatever. So that's the premise, but it's so much more. There's so much character development. There's so much conflict. It's like really, really, really good. I highly, highly recommend that one. The other one is more mainstream. I usually don't watch a whole lot of mainstream animes out there, but I was kind of looking for something else to watch, and I really didn't have any good animes on my radar that I was really looking forward to watching. So I went back to something that's pretty well known. It's called Demon Slayer. A lot of people who are familiar with anime, I'm sure, are familiar with the title. If not, they've watched it, and it's turned out to be pretty good. It's about this group of undercover type of demon slayer people. That it's actually called the Demon Slayer Corps, and they go through these trials and tribulations in order to get into this organization. And then once they're in, they train and basically go hunt down demons that are living in the underworld. It's kind of like a vampire kind of thing where they exist, but no one really knows about it and stuff. And it's pretty cool, man. I mean, it's tailored. This one is kind of tailored to like maybe like teenagers and stuff. So there are some points in it that I'm like, Lee, man, these people are so annoying. But otherwise, the story on its own is the main plot and stuff. It's really solid. It's pretty good.
Nice. Well, how about you, Tim? Any movies, TV shows, or anything you want to highlight in what you've been watching?
So after watching The Lord of the Rings, I was, super still in that mindset. And I had recently purchased this gem from a flea market called Dragonfire. And let me tell you, it did not disappoint. I think it might go by the name Orcs 2 somewhere. It's one of those, I think Orc Wars might be the other alternate name to this one. Basically about a special forces operative who leaves the military and just wants to escape the world, buys a remote ranch out in the West, only to find out that on his property is a cave that is a portal to 13 other worlds. He starts to get these trespassers that come onto his land, one of which is a beautiful elf princess. There may also be a Native American mystic that's involved in this, and a lot of orcs that seemed hell-bent on capturing this elf princess and returning her to one of the realms in order to be sacrificed in some kind of weird ritual. It's not the greatest film you're ever going to watch, but fairly entertaining. I'm almost positive that I think they must have gotten some of their orc armor and makeup and masks and stuff from the Lord of the Rings somehow, because the orcs in this look fantastic. The writing, not so fantastic, but it's dumb, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's worth a watch. Dragonfire, otherwise, if you can't find that title, Orc Wars.
I think I seen that movie on like a sci-fi channel at one point because it sounds very familiar.
It looks interesting. I'm like watching the trailer without sound, and I see dudes with like guns battling orcs and stuff with swords and dragons and stuff. It looks pretty cool. It looks cool.
Yeah. They think he's a wizard because he's got these guns, so he's a wizard, He shows up with all kinds of... And when he buys this house, the realtor's like, yes, the previous owner, insisted that whoever bought the house got it with everything in it. So everything here is yours. And, it's one of those, he kind of moves in, finds a shotgun, it's kind of furnished and stuff, then goes downstairs and finds an entire arsenal. And then there may be a half track from World War II with a giant mod deuce in the back of it, the barn and stuff. So there's plenty of implementation for him to slay orcs at a very fast and furious pace, right up into and including their dragon god.
Okay.
It looks cool. It looks cool.
Yeah, I might have to go back and look. This looks familiar. It sounds familiar. Like you said, I think all the orc costumes were definitely stolen from the back lot of Weta Studios.
Yeah, for sure. But, actually the story's not all that bad. It's not a horrible film. It's definitely low budget, but I've seen so much bad B-movie, low budget stuff. This is probably the upper echelon of bad B movies.
Nice.
That's the only way I can describe it. I don't know how else to sell it, but yeah, it's probably the best of the worst. That's all I can say.
Would you say it's better than the movie Gamers, where the people are playing Dungeons and Dragons in a college dorm, and then you get a cut scene to like their characters playing in character and stuff? If you've never seen it, this is so freaking funny, man. There's a dude in there who doesn't show up on time, so his character is just like frozen still. He doesn't do anything, and then when he shows up, he's a berserker and he goes into a rage, and then he's got to leave again, so that his character is just like still and frozen in game. It's so funny, man.
I will have to watch Gamers and let you know how I feel to compare.
You should be able to get it for free on YouTube, actually. I think they have it on.
Nice.
Although, as I'm looking at the Dragonfire page, they just had a trailer for Ninja Apocalypse. This might also have to go on my viewing.
Well, listeners, you got some B movies to look forward to get discussed about in our next couple of episodes. Just to wrap it up with what I'm watching. So with the Halloween season fast approaching, and the fact that one of my favorite directors just released a TV series on Netflix, I decided to go and start watching Wednesday once again. So I watched all of season 1, and I just started watching season 2 with my family. So looking forward to let you guys know a little bit more about season 2 as I watch it. But so far, I am liking it. It's definitely got a lot of the tropes that were established in the first season. We get to see some new cameos. I got to see a cameo of everybody's favorite mad scientist, Doc Brown. He shows up in the season in one of the episodes. So yeah.
Is the Uncle Fester?
No,
Aw.
He's actually a character named Professor Orlok, which is, I think, a wink and a nod towards the old Nosferatu movie. But yeah, it's a fun and entertaining show so far. But yeah, well, before we have Tim send this take this bus home, Rick, we want to share the love of your podcast out there on YouTube. You want to tell our listeners where they can hear more of your stuff that is not movie related, but in the same vein.
All right, so I have a gaming channel that predominantly focuses on Souls games, so Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, those type of games. I've got tips and stuff. I've got walkthroughs. So if you are at all interested in those type of games, you probably have already seen some of my stuff. Otherwise, you can look for it at Dungeon Master Elite. There's no spaces in that, Dungeon Master Elite. Also, I have videos on tips for strategy RPGs, so games like Tactics Ogre, Fell Seal, and soon I'll probably put out some videos for the remake of Final Fantasy Tactics. This game was put out in the mid-90s on PlayStation. That's PlayStation 1. So it's been, like 30 years in the making. People for a long time thought that it would never have a remastered version. And finally, we're about to get one. It's going to be released at the end of September. So looking forward to that. And you can look forward to seeing some of my videos on that too.
Nice. All right, Tim, why don't you take this bus home?
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Middle Age Movie Views podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our review of Casino, and we're betting that you had a great time, because I know we did. And if you did, then help us hit the jackpot by liking, subscribing, leave a comment, give us some love.
Follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. Have a comment or suggestion, then email the show at mamreviewpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks. Stay cool. And bye, everyone.
To any law enforcement listening, if you ever see me get out of my car, when it's dark at night, and I have something in my hands, it's a sandwich. Please don't shoot.